Doomsday. With so much warning from ancient cultures and modern scientific research, is it possible that our governments know something we don't?
With nature revolting against us and societies collapsing all around us, we are a world on the brink of destruction. If the government's known about a doomsday scenario, why haven't they told us?
Could they be hiding the true nature of the apocalypse because it will come from their own design?
As technology and science advances, it makes doomsday all that much more plausible and all that much more real. And so when you start playing with fire like that, it's going to burn eventually.
For decades, we have feared annihilation by nuclear warfare. But our true end could come in the form of much more insidious weaponry. Unsealed case file, the Bioterror Conspiracy.
When you deal with nuclear technology, obviously that is destruction on the ultimate level. But there's something scarier within the arsenal of the US government and the US military. They've created biological and chemical weapons. If they created something that they cannot control, that could spread like wildfire throughout our society, and we could meet our doomsday head-on.
Today, scientists are manufacturing new synthetic biological agents that could spread and mark the beginning of the end to the world as we know it.
Some theorize that that scenario did play true. In the 1960s and 70s, the government requested funding to create a biological agent that humans had not acquired an immunity for. The conspiracy says they created a virus that escaped their labs, and what we now know as the HIV virus appeared shortly thereafter. What if AIDS was created by our military, or what if they create something that's even more violent and harsher than AIDS? There are thousands of pages within the files of the military and the government that show that they are and have created biological agents that they're going to use against enemies. But what's scary is what they might use in combat probably pales in comparison to what they're researching in the lab.
Bovine spongiform encephalopathy, or mad cow disease, a violent brain infection spread through cannibalism. A Harvard doctor recently theorized that a biological weapon could be created by attaching an infected protein with effects similar to mad cow disease to a common virus. Released into the public, the virus could spread quickly with the infection attacking the frontal lobes of its hosts, instantly eliminating parts of the brain responsible for morality and inhibition and causing dementia, jerking muscles, and eventually death. Or, in another word, zombies. And if you think it's just science fiction, think again.
Russia's Minister of Defense has admitted that they are developing psychotronic weapons, weapons that use electromagnetic fields and forces to influence the human brain.
If they were to deploy psychotronic weapons, ultimately you would create an army of zombies. They don't have to think, have morality, regret what they do, because those weapons can turn off that part of your brain and turn on that violent anger, rage part that would help them win a battle. As scary as that sounds, it's reality when it comes to psychotronic weapons.
If it's true that we can control the people of our planet, how much further can we push the boundaries of science? What about controlling the planet itself?
We've always wanted to control our environment, control the weather. And if the government has found a way to do this finally, then why not use it to their advantage? Why not use it as a weapon? Imagine that the government can take a huge array of sensors and antennas and make a tornado. That's scary to me. That's frightening.
There are documents in the United States military files that prove beyond any doubt they are manipulating weather. I think that science is clearly ignoring what they are doing to our planet. What if you create that chain reaction that doesn't stop?
But governments are not the only organizations that could cause a global disaster. Private businesses have recently developed plans to pull asteroids into the orbit of Earth's moon for the mining of their mineral resources. With notable advisors such as filmmaker James Cameron and Google CEO Larry Page on the project, the story almost seems like a Hollywood plotline. While these early attempts may prove lucrative, they could eventually open doors for future endeavors with less credibility and experience. And a single error is all it would take.
Redirecting an asteroid to be closer to the Earth, one miscalculation and that asteroid's going to crash right into our planet.
An asteroid, a mere 300 meters in diameter, could hit Earth with nearly 60,000 times the force of an atomic bomb. Enough to destroy an area the size of France. The resulting ash cloud would cover the Earth, killing all crops and animals, turning the rain to acid. These are final days in which the living would envy the dead.
This example of corporate greed could put Earth on its path to extinction.
But will doomsday truly mean the end of mankind? It could be our greatest hour as a race, a chance to show our resilience, but only if we live through it.
A crisis of confidence here in the United States, where 82% of Americans, according to the latest poll, believe that this country is heading in the wrong direction. Does all that, though, add up to the decline of this nation? Or is that being too alarmist?
I think it points to something very important, which is all this is happening exactly as you described, but the rest of the world is buoyant, is robust, is growing. You could not have predicted this, and it wouldn't have happened 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, that America would be in a financial, economic, political crisis, and China would be growing at 9%, and India would be growing at 9%. And really, the rest of the world is thriving. It's producing what I call in the book a post-American world.
Well, I truly believe that the day I'm inaugurated, not only does the country look at itself differently, but the world looks at America differently. If I'm reaching out to the Muslim world, they understand that I've lived in a Muslim country.
The bunks were narrow, but the sheets were cool and inviting, and I stayed up late listening to the trembling rhythm of the train and the even breaths of my brothers, and thinking about the stories of our grandfather. It had all started with him, Alma had said. That sounded right somehow. If I could just piece together his story, I thought, then perhaps everything else might fall into place. I finally fell asleep and dreamed I was walking along a village road. Children dressed only in strings of beads played in front of the round huts, and several old men waved to me as I passed. But as I went farther along, I began to notice that people were looking behind me fearfully, rushing into their huts as I passed. I heard the growl of a leopard. and started to run into the forest, tripping over roots and stumps and vines, until at last I couldn't run any longer and I fell to my knees in the middle of a bright clearing. Panting for breath, I turned around to see the day turn to night, and a giant figure, looming as tall as the trees, wearing only a loincloth and a ghostly mask. The lifeless eyes bored into me, and I heard a thunderous voice, saying only that it was time, and my entire body began to shake violently with the sound, as if I were breaking apart.
It's over. Obamacare will not be overturned. Obama will be re-elected, and there will be no 45th president. That's according to Ron Martin, an expert hired by a CIA contractor in 1962 to disrupt and jam Cuban and Russian communications, and one of the brains who worked on NASA's Gemini and Apollo programs. Strong words, to say the least, especially with poll numbers showing Obama's popularity ratings at record lows. But Ron backs up these words. Ron says while Obama runs unopposed and spends little money in the Democrat primary, Republicans will bloody themselves and be broke after their 2012 primary, and even if the victor had billions, he or she would still lose. Why? Here's Ron's math. Besides votes from blacks, 97 of which voted for Obama in 2008, add 23 million government workers, 12 million union workers, the 50% of Americans who pay no taxes, and toss in those on the welfare dole, including 44 million food stamp recipients and a wide garden variety of leftists and Walmartians who will join the white guilters. Oh, did we forget to include 90% of almost 70 million Hispanics in America after Obama signs an executive order legalizing them so they can vote Democrat? And to ensure a landslide, Obama is laundering back $2 to $3 billion from the $1.6 trillion given to his friends from TARP and Porculus. And in the unlikely event it's still a tight race, there is Plan F, fraud, that also details the perfect financial storm scheduled to hit us in 2012, when our financial system will fall like dominoes when Americans perceive their flat money is worthless, leading to uncontrollable chaos. Ron Martin shares wisdom from this quote from the Czech Republic. Blaming the Prince of Fools, Obama should not blind anyone to the vast confederacy of fools that made him their prince. Changing presidents is easy compared to changing millions of entrenched, inculcated belief systems.